This is the second time I'm filming this because I forgot to turn on my audio the first time. I recently made a huge purchase on the GF 55mm f1.7. It's in focus, yes it is. I bought this because I wanted something that's a wider focal length and that has autofocus. So just an alternative over my Mamiya lens, because my eyes are just getting slightly worse the older I get. So my accuracy frame focus is kind of like trending like down slightly, and it's very important for me to be able to nail the shots for a lot of my wedding work. Only autofocus lens I have right now from my GFX is the 80mm f1.7. Great lens, probably my favorite so far. But the only problem I have is that it's a little too tight for what I'm looking for, and the autofocus is kind of hit and miss. I think just by the nature of how it was built. I'm guessing it's because they're trying to fit as much glass into the lens to be able to achieve that like high 1.7 f-stop for medium format. And I think f1.7 in full frame equivalent is 1.3. So yeah, that's pretty good. I was stuck between getting this as a replacement for most of my wedding work, the 55mm 1.7 here, or I could have easily saved like lots of money and buy the 50mm 3.5 pancake lens. Autofocus so quick, it goes lightning quick on my GFX 100S Mark II. So it felt like I was using like a full frame camera, because just how quick it was to focus and take photos, and that was great. But the only thing that stopped me from getting that pancake lens was the 3.5 is a little too slow for my liking, especially when I'm shooting indoors. So I ended up opting out for the 55. It's pretty light. It's actually, I think it's the same weight as my 80mm, pretty much identical to each other. Same size, same dimensions, same weight. They're the same across the board. Just the difference is that they're this is a 55, now there's an 80. The only way to differentiate from the two is that if you just read the label on the lens itself, they'll indicate that, oh, this is a 55 versus the 80, right? Nothing surprising if you're coming from an 80 and looking to get the 55. Build quality, very good. To be expected with the price you're paying for. It's weather sealed, clicking aperture, sounds so nice. It is a fast aperture of 1.7. That's one of the fastest autofocus prime at that aperture you can buy for your money. I know there is the Nikon 65mm f1.4. That glass is hefty. It weighs a ton. It produces great image, but the issue is that it's not autofocus. So you kind of have to you think that is it worth paying like $2,000 or more for the 55 or 80, or you rather just forgo that, save a bit of money and buy like a used or brand new Nikon 65. Speaking of autofocus though, 55 and 80 are practically the same aside from the focal length. The autofocus performance is just as good as the 80mm. Me saying that doesn't mean it's good at all. It's not bad, but it's not great. It's like okay. I think that's to be expected because my 80mm behaved like that too. But I was able to hit maybe 9% of my shots in most of my weddings I've used with the 55 and 80. And yeah, I can't complain. It could be better. It can be better. Coming from the 80mm 1.7, you know, just by the nature of like it's like a tighter focal length and the compression is much better in my opinion. But there's something that the 80mm lacked that the 55 had, which is kind of weird to say, because like, you know, even though they're the same aperture and the fact that the 80mm is a tighter focal length, you would have better compression, right, and better bokeh and just the way it is. But the 55s, like the way it separates like the subject from the foreground, it's so much more natural, and it actually gives more a 3D pop than an 80mm in my opinion. I could be wrong. It could be subjective, but but the way I see it is that the 55 does a better job of giving that 3D pop that medium format is known for. And dang, it looks so good. Subjects, separation from the foreground or the background, it's very gradual. It's very, very natural. Just like the highlights and the shadows, the whole tonality of what the image is being captured, it's really, really nice. And I was so caught off guard by that because I didn't expect that I would like the 55 as much as I do now. So comparably though, like now that I have the 55, and I did mention I have the 80 also, I also have the Mamiya 55, the Mamiya 45, and also the Nikon 65mm. If I had to compare between the 55 and the 3 that I just mentioned, I think the 55 comes close to terms of how it renders the image and the separation as like my favorite lens. But I do like the way that the Nikon 65 renders the image too, and the fact that it has a higher aperture at 1.4 versus the 1.7 here. The trade-off is that there's no autofocus, and it's super hard to manual focus at 1.4 because everything else was too shallow. And I believe like a 1.4 equivalent to full frame is 1.0, so that's coming pretty close. But if you can nail the shot, it'll look amazing. But other than that, it's a lot of work to really take advantage of the 1.4 aperture on the Nikon. But that being said, the 55 is a great alternative for everything else, because I love shooting a lot of my photos between the 35 and the 45mm equivalent, and with the 55 I think in full frame terms of 43mm, which is great. And sure, like I kind of wish that I had something that's equivalent to a 35mm equivalent, but that's okay because from a 35 to 43mm full frame equivalent, it isn't much if you have enough space just to, you know, step back 3 or 4 steps back, and then solved. And I do like the extra compression that comes with the 43mm full frame equivalent. So everything's a little bit more compressed, a better separation, better bokeh. But hey, I think there's a trade-off, right? And you can just make do what you have. And I'm really happy with the 55, hands down. It's a missed opportunity from Fuji just to shove in a linear motor into the 55mm. I wish they did that because I think I would solidify that this is the must lens to own. But I know that, well, I don't know that, but I'm assuming that just adding, you know, linear motor to like a, you know, to this lens might be a lot of work, a lot of engineering. The lens actually might be bigger and heavier too. That could be a thing too. So again, the trade-off between the two. Looking at the image though, you can see that the separation between like my subject and everything else is buttery smooth, and just the way that the 55 like renders like tones and shadows, it's so good. And I got reinforced ideas that yes, you can pay lots of money on like a really good like camera body, but I'd rather spend a little less on the body and spend more on the lens, because the lens is it is the main ingredient to make a perfect, well, not perfect, but great image quality. If you can get over like the slow autofocus, a bulkier like prime lens, and you have the budget for it. But if you don't have the budget for it, but you're looking for like a center focal length, I would definitely recommend getting the 50mm 3.5, right? Smaller size, the smallest pancake that we have right now on the GFX system. It's lightning quick because it has linear motor. I can vouch for that on my like the GFX 100S Mark II or even the 50S Mark II. It's pretty snappy for what it is, and it feels like I was using a full frame camera, honestly, the way that it takes photos so quickly. But if you're a little tight on budget, then I would definitely recommend getting the Mamiya 45mm or the 55. I think they're both at 2.8, I believe. You just need to buy an adapter for it, and it may look a little bulkier on your camera, but cost savings is huge. And Mamiya lenses are the best medium format lens you can get for your money, but it's not weather sealed and no autofocus. But yeah, if you guys like the video, don't forget to hit the like button. If you have any questions or anything regarding the lens or just in general, just leave a comment, and please don't forget to hit the subscribe button. Cool. Cheers.